Now, let's talk more about teachers at Thomas Bennett Community College in Crawley have voted to take strike action. More than 20 jobs are at risk as the Kemnal Academies Trust, which runs the school, looks to save £1 million. The National Education Union insists that the trust, whose chief executive is paid £165,000 a year, has the money to save the school, but the trust disagrees. A consultation into the savings proposals closes tomorrow. Now, parents say they'll continue the fight to stop staff redundancies being made at the community college in Crawley. The trust which runs it say savings have to be made because of a £1 million deficit. Let's talk now to Paul McLaughlin, who's the South East Regional Secretary at the National Education Union, who joins me on the line now. Paul, thank you very much indeed for joining us on the programme. Now, I understand the situation at the moment is that you have permission to strike, but that might not necessarily happen.
Yes, indeed. I mean, obviously a strike is not the first resort, the second resort, or even the third. It is very much a last resort. We're hopeful with, the support that we've received for the proposed action. 99% in favour and an 89% turnout is obviously a very, very significant result. And we're hoping that will encourage the employer to think again about these brutal cuts.
Are you confident this will make any difference, though? Because they say that they are in deficit, they have to find the money, so there's not much else that they can do.
Well, the trust itself, of course, is not in deficit. They have a very healthy bank account. They have at least £7 million in reserves as a trust as a whole. So they definitely have resources they can put into this community school if they choose to do so. Unfortunately, they've not yet been persuaded to do that. We've had enormous support, as you mentioned in your introduction, from the local community. We're actually both joining together to try and save the school and make it viable going forward.
What kind of jobs are at risk here, or that you're concerned are potentially at risk?
Well, unfortunately, in school settings, when cuts are made, it tends to be towards the more vulnerable end of the scale, as it were. There are quite a number of vulnerable students there who receive specialist support. For example, there are special education teachers. They are being cut. 6 out of 7 of them are slated to be axed. So sadly, it's that extra support and that individual style support that is, and including support staff, that tends to be the first to go, I'm afraid.
Always a difficult decision, isn't it, to take any sort of strike action when it's the children that are affected?
Indeed. We're committed not to cause any problems for any of the exams coming up for students, and obviously, as I mentioned, it's not something we would take lightly. And clearly, what we're actually looking to do here, and we do have support from parents in the community, is actually we're fighting to preserve the long-term continuity of the school. And so we hope that people will understand, should we need to take action, that actually this is for the long-term benefit. We need the employer to understand that they can't put the education of the children at risk in this way.
So in terms of what happens next, I suppose you're very much hoping that some positive outcomes from those negotiations.
Indeed, we've reiterated from the start that money will help to solve this problem. You can't take £1 million out of a school budget without there being a serious decline in what's offered to the pupils and the community. So we do hope that they will come to the table with their if not their checkbook, with money that will help to put back in place the kind of support that's needed for the school. We shall see.
Well, thank you, Paul, very much indeed for joining us on the programme. That's Paul McLaughlin, who's the South East Regional Secretary for the National Education Union. Now, we've been given a statement by the Kemnal Academies Trust. They say, we're still in consultation with the NEU on the outcome of the restructure at Thomas Bennett, and we will seek to minimise disruption to the school as much as possible once we know the nature of the strike action. They go on to say, we will also ensure that parents are kept informed at every stage.